What's up, action takers, the community of doers? I hope you're doing fine. Episode 11, week 11, 52 weeks, here we come. Have you ever asked yourself, if you're gonna live hypothetically to be 80 years, those are 4,888 weeks. That got me thinking the other day. If you take this big chunk of years of your life and break it down to something that has a finite frequency over time, that is weeks, it becomes so clear to you that you actually don't have a lot of time around. That is what I want us to look at today. Time. How important is time towards the pursuit that you're taking or towards the objective of your life? So many times without number, you've had something to do with time. But for this period, I want us to look at time from a completely different perspective. And how I'm going to do that is just by making aware to us how limited time that we actually have. And I hope this will trigger very transformative initiatives in your life moving forward on how you look at time. And by that I mean creating the necessary urgency in doing whatever things that you do on a daily basis with regard to your own destiny. Now, before we continue on looking at this very important and very most talked about subject, I would like to request you to kindly subscribe to this YouTube channel. And I appreciate that the numbers keeps growing, but let's continue rallying more people towards this cause. Time. Now, as I was saying earlier, if you're gonna live to be 80 years, I've broken it down into how many weeks are those. And that is, 1 year has to have 52 weeks. So 52 multiplied by 80 gives you 4,888 weeks. Now, the reason I've broken it down is for us to be able to see in small chunks of time so that we can be able to understand why it is very, very important and very, very urgent for us to be very cautious and intentional on how we spend our time and what we spend our time on. Now, I still want to break it further and look at that 1 year can be broken down into the 52 weeks that I've said, which the weeks we can break them down into 4 weeks a month. Then we can go down into 7 days that make a week, into 24 hours that make a day, and so forth and so forth and so forth, until we get to this moment right now. So this moment right now that you're spending the minutes to look at me and listening to what I'm saying, these minutes contributes to hours, contributes to days, contributes to weeks, to months, to years, to decades, and to a lifetime. So what does it mean? That to transform your life or to ruin your life as well, you don't need a lifetime or you don't need a decade. You need a minute, which gets to an hour, to a day, and so forth. So what you're supposed to be so conscious on is this moment right now. This moment right now is the most important moment, because moments of transformation creates days of transformation, creates weeks of transformation, creates months, years, decades, and a lifetime of transformation. So Narrowing it down allows us to give us the urgency and to act. When you look at it from a lifetime perspective, you might not take the necessary action that you need to take. But if you look at this moment right now, with regard to what you want to accomplish, what are you supposed to do right now where you are towards that which you want to do? Now, let us look at time from a completely different shift by looking at it from a smaller time frame. And that is how I want us to look at it moving forward. That hypothetically you have years that if you are to be asked, how many years do you want to live in this world? That is how I looked at it. So just ask yourself, if you're to be asked this question by your creator, the one that you believe in, how many years do you want to live in this universe? Everyone has a number, or a number can come to your head. 70, 80, 90, 100, 120, whatever number you have. Then take that and multiply by 52. You gotta get the number of weeks of your lifetime. Then, how old are you right now? You might be 20, you might be 30, you might be 40. Multiply that 40 by that specific 52 weeks. You gotta get that number. Then if you do the difference, you'll see how many weeks you have left. That's how much radical I want us to be when it comes to time, deadlines, and tracking our progress of what we want to accomplish from a destiny perspective. So every week, you are deducting from that number. If you're going to live to be 80 years, and right now, probably you're 20 years, that leaves you with 60 years to live. If you multiply that with 52 weeks, then that gives you 3,120 weeks. That's the kind of arrangement I'm talking about. And I'm challenging you today. Go and make that. And know how many weeks that you have left. Every week, draw your lifetime destiny. This is what you want to accomplish in your lifetime. And then, make that deliberate, intentional action of knowing how many weeks you have left. And start pursuing that. There are some aspects about time that I want to look at that I think are very fundamental to how we change the way we look at time. And one of the things is, time is a finite resource. By finite, of course, you know what I mean, is that it cannot be renewed. Once time is spent, you will never recover that time again. This is almost a cliche of a concept because many a times that you've interacted with the phrase that time lost will never be recovered. So, self-explanatory. But where I come in is the intentionality of actually taking that term into consideration and doing something about it. The fact that time is a scarce and a finite resource. What are you doing to make sure that you don't waste even a minute? Are you conscious to make sure you don't waste it in the first place? So that takes me to you being able to prioritize on what you spend your time on. Make sure on a daily basis you're very intentional in trying, or rather in engaging in activities that are pointing you towards where you want to be. The next one that I want to look at is time management. These are things that I'm just mentioning, that you've had them over and over again, but I want to relate them to the fact that we have a very limited time to be around. So there are things that needs to come back in the top of your mind, and you have to start doing something about them so that you can be able to see the results in your day-to-day life. Time management is all about planning and scheduling. As cliche as it sounds, I would advocate for you to write down exactly what you have to do, because when you write it down, you're going to be accountable to yourself. If you have a to-do list that this is what you accomplish by the end of the day, if by the end of the day you've not accomplished it, then it means that you are accountable to yourself. This is what I said I'm going to do, and I did not do it. But if you just put it on the top of your head, probably you even forget. So the accountability aspects in that become a little bit tricky. But with clear outlining in a written format, you can be able to keep accountable to see how much are you prioritizing on the things that matter or the things that are taking you closer to what you want to do. The other thing is what I mentioned earlier, which is prioritization. You need to prioritize. Where are you spending your time? In what things are you spending your time? The last one is progress and consistency. By that I mean that those are two aspects about life that go hand in hand with time. For progress to be realized, you have to spend time in that thing that you're doing. Then again, consistency is doing something over and over again. So it calls for time. The only way you can prove that you're actually consistent is doing something over a long period of time, period. That is the only way you can prove that you're actually consistent. Doing something intentionally with feedback for a long period of time. So let me finish the whole conversation of time and relooking at how we look at the concept of time by looking at a couple of people who really said some thought-provoking aspect about time that I want to all of us to learn from. The first person I'm going to look at Steve Jobs. And this is what he said, that your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Are you living someone else's life today? Something that we need to ask ourselves. What does living someone else's life means? Probably you're in a job that you don't like. You're living the life of someone else. Probably you are in a relationship that you're not being valued. You're living someone else's life. Probably you're doing something that clearly does not align to what you want to be. Those are some of the things that, understanding that time is limited, you will not even spend another week. Because how can you spend another week and deduct it from the weeks of your lifetime in that job that you don't want, in that relationship that you don't want, in that unhappy situation that you're in? You're going to be very radical because you know if that week goes, I'll never get that week again. So it is the idea of looking at your life from small chunks of weekly basis that transforms the way you look at life from a whole different perspective. Because it is very easy to measure what you can do in a week. So you're going to be very conscious because you are deducting and intentionally the weeks keep on dropping and dropping and dropping. So it's a bit even scary if every week is passing and you're not making any steps toward where you want to go. The next person that I want to look at is Tony Robbins. And this is what he said. Once you have mastered time, you will understand how true it is that most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade. What do I mean? Or what is Tony Robbins trying to explain to us? Is that when you're setting your New Year resolutions, you set a lot of things. But towards the middle or towards the end, you realize that probably you've not accomplished most of the things that you set to accomplish. People get discouraged, people get frustrated. But what they don't understand is that if you look at that from an extended period of time of 10 years, probably you will have accomplished everything that you wrote and even more. So it's very, very important not to underestimate or to overestimate. The other person I want to look at is Arnold Bennett. And this is what he said. The chief beauty about time is that you cannot waste it in advance. The next year, the next day, the next hour are lying ready for you, as perfect as unspoiled. as if you have never wasted or misplaced a single moment in all your life. You can turn over a new leaf every hour if you choose to. I think that's a very, very profound understanding to have. That you can never waste time in advance. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It doesn't matter how much you've wasted time in the past. Your next hour is as fresh as new, as if you've never wasted any moment. Your next year is as fresh as new. You do what you want to do with it. It is a blank page. You get to write on it what you want to do with that. So the fact that your future time cannot be affected by how you spend your past time, I think is very, very beautiful to just have that realization, so that if right now you decide that moving forward, how you look at time is completely different, guess what? You start seeing the difference immediately. It doesn't require an extended period of time for you to start reaping the benefits, because your future time has nothing to do with your past time. The last person that I'm going to look at is Seneca, and this is what he said, that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. It's just a disclaimer, self-explanatory. The fact that we have a limited time, we are even breaking down into weeks. It can be a very, very, very long and beautiful lifetime if you decide to pursue a path that you're passionate and do something towards it. But also, if you decide to mishandle your time, it can also become a very short time. So I think the longevity or the shortness of your lifetime depends on what you do about it on a daily-to-day basis. An aspect that I like, I say it is not about the days in your life, it's about the life in your days. It is not about how many days you're going to live. It's about the life you're going to put in the days that you live that matter the most. Thank you very much for sticking up to this point. I really appreciate. And I'm inviting you to us to relook how we look at time, completely different. And I'm going to invite you also to embrace that concept. How long do you want to live? Multiply that by 52 weeks. Get the number. How old are you right now? Get the number. And get the remaining weeks that you have. And every week, deduct from that number. What that will do to you will always remain the consciousness of the fact that your time is diminishing every time you are on earth, and also it is going to give you the urgency that you pursue your goals with, by having the realization that your time is limited and your time is diminishing. Thank you very much. Always remember to show up for your life, and see you on the next one.